Okay, yes, 3D printing is one of my key research interest. I've been doing this for the last 7, 8 years, and we produce quite a number of models, mainly focusing on replicating the congenital heart disease. And also we present this model to cardiac surgeons, cardiologists, and we published quite a few papers about the clinical value, about using the 3D printed model for the medical education, surgical training, surgical planning. The particularly congenital heart disease. It was quite useful. I think the limitation of the 3D printing technology in the clinical practice is the turnaround time is too long. You get a cardiac CT images, we do segmentation, then we have to print the model. If we don't have a 3D printer on site, we have to send to the commercial company, the 3D printing company for print the model and send back to us. It's costly, but also it will take a while. So not very suitable for the patient receiving the surgery in a short time, because it may take weeks. So I think the challenge is that we should, in the future, if you look at a clinical application, ideally, we should have 3D printers on site at the hospital. If I have a 3D printer available, but having said that, we need a lot of technical support. Who is going to run the 3D printer maintenance? Who will do the 3D, image processing, segmentation? Whether it's, I think doctors, clinicians, they're too busy, they don't want to do it. You probably find some technologies. So it's quite a lot of challenges to overcome before we can recommend the 3D printing, 3D printed model to a routine clinical practice. It's very research, tool, education, surgical planning, but then we need a further advancement. For example, technology, the printing cost should be cheaper, printing material more flexible. You can print the multicolor models, and also how to convince the cardiologist, the clinician to accept the 3D printing in their daily practice. I think that's probably the main challenges in the future. Yeah, okay, thanks. I think, yes, we developed a nice chest phantom model, and we call the, yes, patient-specific, or we develop our model based on the patient CT images, the patient chest CT scan. So and then we perform the segmentation from skin, bone, muscle layer to the lungs or vessels, and even the lung nodules. So the patient-specific 3D printed model and reflect the realistic patient anatomy, not like a commercial phantom. You can buy the commercial phantom, which is very expensive, because we contact some company about like the chest phantom, and it represents the average adult size, but it costs like 20,000-30,000 Australian dollars. This is very expensive, not accessible by many of the clinical or university sites. So the patient-specific phantom, is based on the real patient data, and then we print the phantom with different materials. So it's quite a ideal solution, and also you can study the release dose, low dose, even ultra low dose protocols. You can do many scans on the phantom. You don't have to worry about the release dose because it's not on the real patient scans, but also it's cheaper. I think the price much cheaper, compared to the commercial phantom. Maybe it just costs around less than 1,000 Australian dollars compared to the commercial phantom, which costs $20,000-$30,000. And yes, you're right. Regarding the approval, that probably is another challenge because the phantom really shows promising clinical application, but how are we going to others commercialize, or we can make it more widely available, will be challenged. For example, how can we make the phantom as a product? That will be very difficult. It's currently still the experimental stage. It's a research tool, but then in the long term, we would like to improve our phantom, can make it as a product, price affordable by the university or the clinical sites to study. So the phantom, I think, if we put them together, the whole process from the image processing, segmentation, the printing, the cost material should be less than $2,000, which is accessible. But then we need some regulation approval before the phantom can be really be feasible or accessible as a final product when compared to the commercial vendors. Okay. I think virtual reality or augmented reality, and some even call it extended reality. That's the terminology used to cover all these virtual mixed reality, augmented reality. It should be the future, and particularly I think after the COVID, the pandemic, because from the medical education perspective, it's very difficult to access the cadavers. Traditionally, learning anatomy, university, medical students and they based on the cadaver, but that's isn't very difficult to access cadaver after the pandemic. I think virtual reality or mixed reality, augmented reality is getting popular in some already in the universities and to serve as a kind of alternative tool to the current teaching method. The enhanced learning experience means the cadaver student also have a limited access to the cadaver. But then the virtual reality or mixed reality, you buy a headset. It only costs a couple $100, but then you can widely accessible by students. The learning experience will be improved. Quite a lot of study have proved, they have quite a similar education effect compared to traditional educational tools. So that's in the medical education perspective. I think that's the future. It's happening. And also in many universities happening, I know we are here, we also at the current university, we are also trying to do some, further research to how to encourage the use of virtual reality or this augmented reality in our education. From clinical perspectives, yes, and particularly I think virtual reality education, but also augmented reality to guide the surgical planning, and also even the mixed reality, my other project, mixed reality also and has been shown to guide the surgical planning of the patient with congenital heart disease. I think clinical perspective also is also and showing the greater promise applications compared to the current 2D, 3D and applications. My other study, we compared the 3D printing with virtual reality and augmented reality, and then the clinicians, they prefer the virtual reality better than the 3D printed models because they think the 3D printed model only static, the physical model, but virtual reality, you can have a more interactive, the looking inside the medical imaging data set. So they find the virtual reality, this technology more useful for the surgical planning compared to the 3D printed models. So I think it's definitely has a greater application in the future in clinical, both medical education and clinical practice. All right, thanks. I think, yeah, for the young researcher in the cardiovascular imaging area, I think what we have seen the paradigm shift in the, both, research or clinical part areas, we see the using the digital data, digital technology that's already has happening. And it's unlike the traditional ways, based on the 2D based visualizations, 3D as already mentioned, like virtual reality, this and augmented reality, mixed reality, and the 3D printing model. All these kind of applications already have really showed great applications. And the other areas is artificial intelligence, the machine learning, deep learning. This is already happening everywhere in the clinical practice. I think many clinical sites already, and also if you look at the research publications, quite a lot of, this kind of, yeah, when you look at the medical imaging or radiology journal, the 3D, the AI, the deep learning, this kind of publication dominate most of the journal's current research directions. I think the young researcher in the cardiovascular imaging probably should pay more attention to the latest technologies. Yeah, not to say we don't really focus on the traditional imaging technology, but I think that was reality. The latest technology, digital imaging technology, AI, machine learning, all the virtual reality, all this 3D printing, these applications are showing the evolutionary change that's already have completely changed our current practice or the diagnostic approach. I think that's the young researcher who are interested in the cardiovascular imaging should be more interested in this area, should dedicate more time to look at how this new technology change our practice, because they do, I know that completely change our perception about how the imaging technology, the improve the diagnosis, not just the diagnosis, but also its kind of prevention. For example, the deep learning technology analyze the images, mix all these technology can detect the disease early stage, can prevent to improve the patient outcomes. I think these are the areas, that I would like to encourage this young researchers to focus more on this. I mean, I started my 3D printing for virtual reality only less than 10 years ago, but this technology, AI, whatever, already everywhere. So I try to catch up with this technology as an experienced researcher. But I think for a young researcher who are interested in the cardiovascular imaging should pay more attention to these technology developments. And I think some of them still in the developing stage, like some AI tools still not mature enough. On VR, virtual reality, is no augmented reality, not yet ready to the routine clinical applications, but they do will make a big difference in the future, in the coming years. I think that's the aspects I probably would like to suggest for the young researchers.